Okay, so we're happy to welcome Hugh Evans to talk to us today, the new Director of Adult Social Services in Bristol. Welcome, Hugh. You're going to talk to Bristol carers. Would you like to introduce yourself and just say a little bit about who you are and where you come from?
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here and very happy to be here. Yes, my name's Hugh Evans, as you said. I have been working in care and health type services for 30 years, so for the vast majority of my adult life. Most recently I was working in Cornwall, working for Cornwall Council and NHS Kernow CCG on transformation work, trying to build big picture, better systems for health and care in the county. Prior to that, I've worked in a range of places around the country, but I started off in Leicester, where I'm actually originally from. I've done a lot of different kind of jobs over the years. I started off actually as a carer, a care worker, and my first 10 years were in care jobs, mainly with learning disabilities, some with adults with physical disabilities, residential and in day services and in the community. So a lot of years at the beginning as a hands-on carer. Beyond that, started having children and thought needed to move up the ranks and perhaps earn a little bit more money, and I found myself here now. So yes, lots of different jobs in lots of different places, but I'm really proud to be in Bristol now. I think the first thing to say really is that it's really a matter of great importance to me that I do get a chance to talk to carers, because of the important role that carers play. And I know that this is the kind of thing that people always say, but it is important to note it. You know, some work that was done a few years ago suggested that if unpaid carers stopped working at their unpaid caring roles, then it would cost the state the same amount as the NHS, you know, something along the lines of about 125 billion pounds a year. So that is what I consider to be the backbone of the nation, really. And it's of real importance that carers are recognised for the important work they do and also supported in that. And so I'm going to aim to do that in my role in Bristol City Council.
Thank you. That's really good to hear, because I know it's, I mean, carers are always struggling to be heard, be recognised, and particularly at the moment with COVID-19 and the lockdown and carers taking on more responsibility, their caring role growing, and often in more isolation. So I think that's I think it is.
I mean, I'm learning my way around here. I mean, I do know I've done work in other places. I know about the kind of proportion of people that are in populations that are unpaid carers. I know that there are over 40,000 unpaid carers in Bristol, including some, you know, young carers who are really quite young, you know, some people as young as 7 or 8 years old. And I know about the struggles that people have with poverty and isolation and ill health, and the fact that they don't get to put themselves first. They always have to think about the people that they're caring for first. But without them, the health and social care system just wouldn't work. And you know, so, I mean, I think it's important for me in my role, but also personally, to thank everyone for the relentless work and recognise the contribution that they do.
And I was hoping to talk a little bit about Bristol's response to coronavirus, and specifically how the services, social care services, have been affected by COVID-19, but how Bristol responded to that and supported the unpaid carers whose family members might be losing a service, for example, day centres, or you know, losing their respite because the services can't operate under the restrictions that come in.
I mean, we've tried as hard as we can to keep services as much business as usual, but obviously in the context of the coronavirus, that's been that's been really, really difficult to do. Especially, as you noted, I think, the main concern are going to be for people who would have received building-based services, perhaps day services or in the community links or whatever, where they have to go to places where other people are. But also people that receive services and support in their home, because there's had to be a lot of effort put into supporting service users and staff and carers when it comes to home visits as well. I mean, the usual things I'd say apply in regard to the support that we can offer, which is that, there's the Carer Support Centre. I mean, I'll always default to the Carer Support Centre, very important organisation in any place. It's a statutory requirement, I think, to have one, and your hours. And so, if you're watching this, then you also know how to be in touch with your Carer Support Centre, I hope. And if you have any issues and you don't know where else to go, then go to them, because they'll point you in our direction if need be. We at the council operate Care Direct, which is the means by which people can get information and support and advice, and also assessment and support beyond that if they need it. I'm aware I am really new, so you'll excuse me, but I am checking notes here, so I hope you don't mind too much, because
that's fine. I'm checking my questions. So.
I haven't memorised it all in my first few weeks.
No. So if people are having problems with, if people have had services, day services, that are not available, should they be expecting to hear from them, and if they're not?
Certainly, yes. Certainly, if people have had day services, they should have received contact, and if not, they will very soon be receiving contact from either the council, if the council provided day services, or from the day service providers. And I can't guarantee that everybody has had. I think what we've been doing at the council is we've been with the information that we have from assessment staff, is that we've been going to people who've been identified as being the most in need and supporting the ones that are absolutely the most in need first, because some people are having some really difficult situations, whereas others are managing okay. It's not good for anybody, but at the end of it, we are having to prioritise. But people who use day services particularly, we are quite keen to ensure that if they're not managing, then their needs can be met in some alternative ways and supporting them in that way. So we are checking. If any major concerns are becoming apparent, then we have to look at what alternative support, perhaps one-to-one support, we can offer. But bearing in mind, if people are shielding, or if people are at risk of COVID infection and the effects of that, then we have to be very careful. People who get day care from providers that aren't the council or community links, they should be getting regular contact from their providers, and if they're not, then please can they get in touch with Care Direct if they have particular needs, or the Carer Support Centre, and they'll put you on to us. There are other things I think I've got to mention. That we have got this Bristol Council We Are Bristol helpline that's available to support people for a range of different purposes, especially though in COVID times, about things like food supplies, other essential items, or if they're having trouble getting their medication. Bristol, that organisation, We Are Bristol, can help to arrange follow-up support with different organisations if need be. There is a free number. Shall I read the free number out now? I mean, the thing is, you can put it on the Facebook.
Yeah, we have it on the website as well. But
it's 0800 694 0184. And also, there's particular support for young carers as well. I think we've got 200, something along the lines of 200 identified young carers, but there may be many more. If you know someone who's a young carer, if you are a young carer and need help, there's a place on the council website under young carers, or call the Carer Support Centre again. But there's a range of supports, but it is, I have got to be honest, it's hard work, coronavirus, and we're working very hard to try and make sure that everybody's getting what they need. But if there is anybody who has any issues or needs to have any advice, support, or anything beyond that, then please Care Direct or the Carer Support Centre.
Okay, thank you. And what about moving forward, looking at services going back to any kind of normality, or more one-to-one work, perhaps around assessments? I mean, I imagine there's a lot of assessment work being done over the phone.
Yeah, we've been using whatever, as we are now, whatever platforms are available, bearing in mind that we know that quite a lot of people may not have access to the more high-tech platforms. But we have, with assessment and reviews, we have been using telephone calls or WhatsApp or Skype sometimes if people have access to those things. We can talk a little bit, if you like, about how we protect staff and PPE and all of those kinds of things, because that's quite important. But just to say that we can do home visits if needed, although we tend to try not to, especially if people are in care homes or what have you, because we have to be very stringent about infection control, both for the benefit of service users and their carers, but also for staff. But if a home visit is needed, if it's crucial, we'll carry out a risk assessment, and then we'll ensure that everybody concerned has the right personal protective equipment, which is usually masks, gloves, perhaps a gown, perhaps head covering, etc., to ensure that they stay safe. The day services that the council run, we're looking at the health and safety issues of reopening. So the facilities people in the council are looking at the day services, assessing the buildings in the same way as you'll have seen in supermarkets and increasingly outside shops in streets, 2 metre separations and all of that kind of thing. Because social distancing, despite slight relaxation of the lockdown at the moment, social distancing is still something we need to do. So we are looking at that and looking at transport to see what's possible. It may be that at some stage there may be a phased reintroduction of building-based services, but at the moment I think we've got to be, taking care and following the guidelines, and like a lot of commercial premises, day services are going to be very difficult to open. Likewise, our commissioners are working with other day service providers to see about how quickly they can get their services up and running. Perhaps more one-to-one support or support for people in their, support for people in their communities rather than centre-based at the moment.
Yeah, because people still have their care packages or the support packages which are not necessarily being provided at the moment to them. So yeah, looking at how they can be provided differently.
Yeah, and again, as in so many other ways, fully aware that it's the unpaid carers, family carers, or people's care networks, their friends and family, that are taking the brunt of that on. And we're very grateful for it. It's very hard work. I know personally from some experience I've had, but it is hard work, and we appreciate that.
You mentioned PPE, and actually, did want to ask about that. Obviously, the staff, so the council staff, if they're going out, they're going to be provided with what they need. Is there anything carers can do if they need PPE, if they are in certain situations where they need to, maybe if they're visiting the person they care for, they don't live with them, and they need to have PPE to go in, or various circumstances where they may need some. Anybody who watches the news will have seen how PPE has become one of the main issues of the whole COVID-19 situation, and it's mainly been because there hasn't been as much PPE readily available as would have been needed in a situation like this.
I think we've done quite well in Bristol, and we are on top of the issue now. That's for a couple of reasons. The first one is that thankfully in the southwest of England, the COVID-19 epidemic hasn't been quite as significant. The spike in the curve hasn't been quite as high as it has been in other parts of the country. It's still a big problem, but we haven't had quite the number of incidents as there have been, say, for example, in the northeast or in London or in the Midlands. What we have done is ensured through a range of different suppliers that we have got a good stock of PPE available, and we can get that to people in emergency situations. Now, care providers are expected to provide their own PPE. But what we have done as a council is, because PPE has been in short supply, it's become very much more expensive. And so people have been having to go on Amazon or eBay and try and get hold of PPE. And it's become, you know, it's got 5 times increase in price, which is getting to be really much too expensive for care providers. So as a council, through the NHS, we've bought a good lot of PPE, mainly masks, because masks are the things that are in short supply. And we have got a contact line for people if they are, if they're self-funders or if they're on direct payments and they're employing their own carers. We have got a line that people can use to get hold of some PPE. And I haven't got the details here, but I'll make sure you get it so that you can put it. We've got an information sheet and you can put it on your Facebook page and on your website. So if people do need it, we've kept it as cheap as it can be. And if people have got an emergency situation, then we'll give them some, a week's worth or 2 weeks worth at notice.
Okay. Would that be for available for unpaid carers, or for if people are being cared for by family members but not paying them? So it may be there's a group of family members who are supporting and caring for somebody, the unpaid carers. Would they be able to access that free PPE?
Well, we can get some to people, I think. I mean, I'm not going to guarantee that we can supply it forever, because we've got a certain amount, but it's for the whole care market. But if people haven't got any, we can certainly get them some. And if people need to buy it, then it can be supplied at cost. So, you know, 45p a mask or something, which is about a third the price of what you pay online. So there are ways and means, but if people in their own situations have got a problem, then we've got a contact email address that people can use.
Yeah, brilliant. I guess just a couple more things. So
it's right grilling this, isn't it?
No, just a couple more things, really. Just looking forward, and you know, talked about services and plans for that going forward, but involving carers and making carers visible within the council. What are your thoughts around that and plans? Talking to carers and
I think there's a few things, really. I mean, I'm very keen on publicising and, you know, making very well known the role that unpaid carers play in the health care and well-being systems that we run across the country. And I think it's really important that we make sure that carers have a voice, that carers are able to contribute to discussions at all levels, you know, from discussions about day-to-day service delivery to discussions about future strategy, because at the end of it, what we're talking about is designing services for them, you know, and for the people that they care for. And, you know, it's nothing about us without us, as they quite often say in these kinds of service design conversations. So I think that's really important. I think, you know, so I'll be advised by, as a new person, I'll be advised by you as to ways in which I can get involved, especially as at the moment, all of my interaction with the people of Bristol tends to be on my computer, which isn't helpful. But, you know, we have to live with that for the moment. I think that it's important to note that we are really keen in developing a more community-focused way of looking at healthcare and wellbeing services. We've got a new community health provider called Sirona, who are also very keen on that locality-based service approach. And some of the money that's come through the government for COVID-19 is going to be used to support key organisations in the community, voluntary sector organisations, to really build community resilience and give people opportunities within communities to support each other and to work with the council and work with the NHS to really develop a good safety net for people in their communities. And that's not only about care and health and support, but it's also about loneliness, and it's also about, you know, people getting an opportunity to be included in things, and it's about getting a bit upstream with some of the issues that people have. You know, if their house is falling into disrepair because they haven't got time to look after it because of their caring duties or what have you, you know, we really want to be joined up about this. We really want to join everything, you know, all the departments of the council, people in the voluntary community sector, the NHS, but also people in communities, carers. You know, we really want to link everybody together and get these conversations going.
I guess we want to be always talking about carers, unpaid carers, and so that they're part of everything, not just, you know, not just
an afterthought or the Cinderella bit, because, you know, it's especially, you know, it's very easy for the big services to concentrate on the big services and to concentrate on themselves. But all the while, you know, people of all the communities of Bristol, you know, I'm aware, for example, particularly that there are carers, support organisations for the BAME communities in Bristol, and people from black and minority ethnic communities are significantly, disproportionately affected by COVID-19. And you know, so we're quite keen to make sure that you know that the people of all the communities of the city get the opportunity to speak out about being carers and about what it means to support people who've got high levels of need in their homes and in their communities. We've just set up an equality group around COVID specifically, but we'll be developing it more beyond that. And I think we're going to invite people from, I think the Carer Support Centre should be invited, and if not, you will be, but others as well, to start getting those conversations going. And you know, so we'll be relying on your organisations to help us to hear those voices.
It looks like we will be doing lots of work together.
I hope so.
Well, we already are, but you're a new person.
Yeah, well, I'm a new person, and I've already been hauled over the coals by Zoom.
So, thank you very much. I mean, it's an unusual situation, so thank you so much for doing this.
No, you're very welcome. Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to say before we wrap up?
No, I think, well, I mean, there's always more to say, but no, as far as I'm concerned, I think we've covered quite a few of the important topics. I'm looking forward to Carers Week, which I think is, as we record this, is next week, although I don't know when you're going to be putting this out, but
well, at some point during the week, as early as possible.
the challenge of making carers visible in an era where, you know, people are invisible because they're in their homes and all of that kind of stuff, it's a pretty major challenge. But, you know, I think as a council we're doing some things to support that, but please keep me involved in that, and you know, when Carers Week's over, let's keep the momentum going.
Yeah, thank you, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.